Hi everyone, my name is Jake. I'm a Potteridge Padway man from South Australia but born and raised in Melbourne. I would like to introduce Julie, a Wurundjeri woman, to do a Welcome to Country.
Wominchika. Firstly, thank you JD for inviting myself here today to Burrinja Gallery to perform the Welcome to Country to acknowledge NAIDOC Week. The NAIDOC Week 2020 theme is Always Was and Always Will Be, which is a recognition that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are the custodians and caretakers of this land and have been for more than 60,000 years. NAIDOC Week this year celebrates the knowledge and inherited wisdom of the First Nation Australians and the importance of being connected to it. In our journey, we continue to listen and learn from those who have gone before us, often too soon, and survivors of trauma. We need all Australians to walk alongside Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, in particular stolen generation survivors, their families and communities, and to listen and understand our stories of strength and resilience. The benefits of healing flow to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and finally to who call Australia home. Strong spirit, strong culture and strong people will mean a strong nation. Successful healing involves reconnecting with culture and identity, restoring safe and enduring relationships, and understanding the impact of trauma to find healing pathways. I welcome you to my country, the land of my ancestors, the traditional owners on this land on which we meet. As is customary of Aboriginal Australians, I acknowledge and pay respect to our elders past, present and future. I'd also like to respect everyone here today and your ancestors and families. I'd also like to acknowledge other Aboriginal people here today and elders. This week is an opportunity to bring people together from different backgrounds and cultures, connecting us all to earth and country, enhancing our beautiful environment. To do a Welcome to Country is indeed a privilege for me. I never thought I would see the day when I would be in this position to perform a Welcome to Country, a tradition that has been handed down by my mother and her ancestors before her. My mother also handed down to me this possum skin cloak that I am wearing this afternoon. The importance of a Welcome to Country is that it acknowledges the Wurundjeri as the traditional and rightful owners of this country on which Melbourne stands and beyond. My people belong to the Kulin Nation, which is made up of 5 important tribes: the Worimi-Biripi, Dja Dja Wurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Bunurong. The significance of a Welcome to Country not only allows for respect to be paid to the traditional owners of this land, but also to you as a guest of Wurundjeri. Being a guest comes with a number of obligations such as respect, acknowledgement and caring and sharing, treating one another as we each would expect to be treated as equals. By following these obligations, we can only move forward to making Australia a better place for us all and also for any future generations, regardless of our many nationalities, cultures and traditions. For us Aboriginal people, the land has a spiritual connection. It's our mother. The human spirit is born from our land and returns to it upon death. The land supplies us with everything that we need. In conclusion, may Bunjil, my creator spirit, surround you all and keep you safe on country, from the tops of the trees to the roots in the ground. On behalf of my elders, Wominchika, Yemen, Kundi Beek, Wurundjeri Balik, welcome to the land of the Wurundjeri people. Thank you. Happy NAIDOC Week.
Now I'd like to invite Aunty Janet and Julie to perform a smoking ceremony.
Thanks, Jake. I too would like to acknowledge the lands on which we are gathered. I'd like to acknowledge my ancestors from the Noongar people, way over in Old Yallatar, to those that lived around Bendigo and Ballarat and the generations, and my Scottish fathers. My father's Scottish family came out. I'd like to acknowledge them all. I grew up in Portland on the Great South, the Southern Ocean, part of an amazing landscape that I'll never will forget. I've grown up and spent most of my time here in Melbourne, adapting to urban life. A country kid always stays a country kid, even in the country of concrete and asphalt. Thanks, Julie, for such a wonderful welcome, as we do acknowledge that NAIDOC Week is about Aboriginal people, always have been, it always will, always was and always will be Aboriginal land. It's interesting that down in the Western District, not far from where I grew up, they've discovered ruins that are 120,000 year old, along with campfires. And as much as they're not quite ready to acknowledge that Aboriginal people may have been here that long, a little bit of history. It's interesting to see how far back it really goes. And it's a privilege to be and to celebrate NAIDOC, to honour a tradition that started in 1938 with the memorial Aboriginal people asking to remember their dead. So it became a day when they sat down and thought about all those that had died, that had gone before them. In the early 1970s, it was turned into more of a celebration. Catherine Walker, or Wurundjeri Country, wrote during 1972 that you people bought us all those wonderful things, buildings, cars, real estate. You bought us all these things. She lists about 70 or 80 different things. But she said, I want you to remember that we were a people before we were a citizen. And I take that to heart, because across this country were the most amazing people, the most amazing artists and songwriters, singers and dancers, a people that lived in the creative spirit of this country. And it's something that touches me daily. Every time I walk on these soils, I always remember those thousands of generations of people who've been here way long before I have. On behalf of Burrinja, we are going to smoke this. We've had our fire going, so Julie, thank you. Oh, great. Fantastic. I'd like to invite all those here to come and smoke themselves, to walk around the fire and to take in the wonderful scent of the eucalypt.
Thank you, Aunty Janet and Julie, for that beautiful welcome to country and smoking ceremony. I'd now like to invite Gareth Hart, the Creative Director for Burrinja, to introduce himself.
Thank you, Jake. Yes, my name is Gareth Hart and I am the Creative Director here at Burrinja. I'd like to echo everybody else's sentiments today and quite genuinely acknowledge that we are meeting on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and on behalf of Burrinja's board, staff and volunteers, to pay respects to elders from that community, all past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge the ongoing role that Indigenous people play in the narrative of this place. When I think about place, it's obviously a particularly pertinent thing to think about in NAIDOC Week this year, given that we are talking about sovereignty and the sovereign rights of our First Peoples. Burrinja has an ongoing dedication and commitment to acknowledging, celebrating and empowering the role of Indigenous artists in our community. And I'm just thrilled that Julie mentioned the idea of walking together or walking alongside together, because I am thrilled to be walking alongside people like Jake, people like Aunty Janet, people like Julie, and all Indigenous people that are part of the community of Burrinja and on a personal level that are part of my life. I take great inspiration and resilience and strength from those people, and I would just like to very genuinely thank all of those people from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to JD for pulling together this project for NAIDOC Week for Burrinja this year. I hope you all have a wonderful week. And as Nikki mentioned, if you're watching as a postscript, I hope you had a great NAIDOC Week. And if you're watching during, I hope you're having a great NAIDOC Week. From all the team at Burrinja, thank you so much.
Thanks, Gareth. I'd now like to introduce Nikki Madgwick, a proud Indigenous poet, to perform one of 3 beautiful poems for our NAIDOC Week event.
Hi, my name is Nikki Madgwick and I am a proud Worimi-Biripi woman from coastal New South Wales. I've been very blessed to have grown up on Wurundjeri Country, where I currently live and work today. I want to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people as sovereign custodians of this land, where I'm currently filming, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I want to acknowledge their ancestors up in the dreaming watching over, and I want to pay deepest respects to the community that I love so much and I get to work with almost every day. I have been asked to perform a couple poems for you, and usually I would do this in person, but this year things have been done a little bit differently, so I'm coming to you virtually. I always write a poem reflecting on the NAIDOC theme for each year. It's just a bit of a tradition of mine, and this poem that I'm going to read to you first is on this year's NAIDOC theme of Always Was, Always Will Be. It's brand new. I've just literally finished it today, so I will cheat a little bit and read off my phone. I do apologise. But I think this is my creative way of expressing what the NAIDOC themes mean to me. I feel like I'm best heard when I get to sit down, gather my thoughts and put them into a poem. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll perform a couple others for you after this one. This is called First Nations Peoples. Always was, always will be. It's up to us, First Nations sovereignty. We need to decolonise a cultural uprise because our country is bleeding and I can hear her weeping. Our waterways, they should flow like glistening veins snaking along as they make their way to the Billabong. Yet instead all we're left with is dried up creek beds. Sacred birthing and directions trees filled with generations of history, entrusted to lead the way, they can never be replaced. Yet still you come to desecrate another one, committing cultural genocide, behind policies you hide. So with my feet planted in the soil and my spirit rooted in the ground, I stand in solidarity with mob all around, going back to country and connecting to land, a cultural discovery for our women and men. Our staunch matriarchs, warrior hearts, burais taught through culture and art, languages and laws, songlines and more. This is our land to protect. This is our heritage to defend. We refuse your neglect. Our country needs to mend. Thank you. Let me just cue up my next one on my phone. This poem is also a poem that I wrote for a previous NAIDOC theme. When Our Languages Matter was the NAIDOC theme, I think that was a couple years ago now. This really hit home for me because I haven't been blessed to grow up on country, and I don't know much of our language. I am fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of Wurrung language, and I'm learning bits and pieces along the way, which is really lovely, but this one really struck a chord with me because I don't know much of my language, so this actually opens with a little bit of language that I do know, and it means hello, what are you doing? My language is Gitang, if you're curious. Gujigu, Mira Bira Wabale. This language is Gitang. It is my mother tongue, belonging to my people, but my knowledge is feeble. Gitang language was almost lost not too long ago, banned as a form of colonization as well as control. Them gubbers, they took the children, on missions they hid 'em, all across the country detached from their families, songlines suppressed along the way, while my people were forced to obey. Them people who came on boats, they forced English down our throats. They started this all when they stole our land, when they slaughtered my people and made their demands. Let me be clear, this country was not settled, it was invaded, and too many of my people did not make it. Yet they continue on up in the dreaming, watching over the ones who were left weeping, the ones who had to hide their culture for fear of them gubbers' cruel torture. They said, assimilate and live like us, while they treated us like filthy dust. We tainted this great and prosperous land, try to wipe us out by white man's hand. Seen as no better than dirt under nails, while their white privilege still prevails. We had hundreds of languages before that lot came. Now I cannot say the same, when only a handful remain. So we must soak up all the knowledge we can and learn from this incredible land. We need to listen to our elders so we can hold on to our culture, share our wisdom with our children, and support each other, my brothers and sisters. Thank you. And this last poem, let me just chuck that. This last poem I'm going to perform for you, you might have heard before. It's a few years old now. It's one of my favourites to perform, and it's also one of my most popular requests. It was actually the first poem I ever wrote expressing my cultural identity, and it took me a while to write it because I think I was just scared I wouldn't find the right words. The poem is me reflecting on this moment when I was younger, when I was so excited and I was like, oh, hey, I'm Aboriginal. And I thought it was so interesting. I thought it was the most interesting thing about me. And this was when I was a little girl at school, and this boy in front of me, who was also a little boy, turned around and laughed and said, no, you're not, you're white. And these poems that I do now, I think I do them for that little girl that had that response of that young boy questioning her identity, because I've had it countless times since then. And I didn't have the words when I was younger, and I didn't have the strength when I was younger to stand tall and proud and go, no, I am, because it doesn't matter how much milk you add to a cup of coffee, it's still a cup of coffee. So this poem is my response to that. They're the words I wish I had when I was little, but I can say them now, and that's amazing. This poem's called Does My Heritage Offend You? Does my heritage offend you? Does it leave a bad taste in your mouth? Putrid, like the colour of my ancestors' skin. That seems so wrong you had to make it right. Or did you have to make it white? But making us white didn't change our blood, and our blood bleeds into this earth and pumps throughout this land, filling life itself. My blood is as old as time, shed in songlines that bind us all as brother, sister, aunt, uncle, cuz, family. My people are resilient, fierce, courageous, powerful, and still here. We're still here. I'm still here. Even after you tried to destroy us, even after you fought so hard to eradicate us from this land, it was as if we were the weeds and you were the flowers being so viciously strangled. What a twisted way to see the world. Being so afraid of colour that you only see in black and white. And so the narrative goes that white is right and white is fine in your mind, but black is slack, so we must lack, and that's a fact. Let me tell you, behind these eyes lies someone who refuses to hide anymore. And yes, I'm sure I'm so much stronger than before. With culture at my core and my mob on the shore, will break down the doors that define us and the stereotypes that were constructed to confine us. And while I may be fair and have red hair, that does not make it okay for you to throw shade at the way I was made and question me when I say, hey, I'm Aboriginal. Because we come in all shades. And yes, sometimes our skin fades as we celebrate the next generation of babes, but identity doesn't live within pigment, so the pigment of our skin should not define us. I'll say that again. The pigment of our skin should not define us. Because thinking that way had my mum stolen away. See, my nan, she was too dark to have half-caste kids in her care, and that was enough to say, no way, they shouldn't be there. So they were ripped from her arms and placed into true harm at the hands of a horrible man. So let's end this here and now, because my soul is a kaleidoscope made up of all the lives I've lived and people I've loved. It is a rainbow bursting with all the beautiful colours of my ancestors' skin and humming with their song sung over thousands of years. It is rich and full, wild and free. Just you wait and see all the things that I'll be. because I'm me and you are you, so what you choose lies on you. Thank you. And I do just want to, I wish I could have a little asterisk while I'm performing. When I say I have red hair, for a very long time I had dyed red hair, and it was kind of my signature colour, and a lot of people knew me as a redhead. Artificial, but as a redhead. And I like leaving it in there because I've met a lot of mob, you know, who are fair skinned and they've got freckles and they've got red hair, and it doesn't make them any less part of community, you know. And I think that's important, that we show all the different colours that we come in, because it doesn't change our heart, it doesn't change our blood, and that's what that poem's about. So I keep it in there, even though at the moment my hair is actually purple. But purple hair doesn't quite have the same ring in the poem. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you all have an amazing NAIDOC week. I'm filming this actually on the Sunday, so it's the very start of NAIDOC week. If you're watching this after, I hope you did have a beautiful NAIDOC week, and I can't wait for 2021 when we can celebrate in person and together. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, day, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this.